Seasons. There are some. They have several of them. I don't know who created them, but I'm glad they did, because imagine if they hadn't and we just had one season. And imagine you didn't like that season. Then what? Well, fortunately, somebody who had some control over some of the levers of reality and nature created the seasons. And now we have four, at least four. There are some sub-seasons, yeah. Some people like to parse out the little differences. But me, I'm happy that there are seasons. And so, as with every year, coming to the end of my school year, I'm in college. And the season that I like most came around, and now it's leading into one of the other seasons that it's okay, but you got to be in the right place at the right time. Anyway, so I took an early leave from studies at San Diego State University, and because my buddy, childhood friend who had graduated a couple years earlier than me and went to work for some stock company, one of those Wall Street places. And he had a vacation coming up, and so it was in the season called spring. And I'm okay with that because we get spring break. So down there down at SDSU. I was going to go to UCSD, but yeah, that's another story. I don't want to talk about that. Anyway, so I was on spring break. Now, spring break ends up being 9 days, depending on how you count. Not everybody counts the same. But I took an extra week because I am so smart, and I was a physics and math major, and it all seemed simple to me. So I just, fuck it. Let's go camping. So my buddy calls me up. He says, hey, it's spring break. It's your spring break, right? Let's go for some camping. And I said, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's go spring break camping. Where do you want to go? He said, the High Sierras, of course. And I said, okay, where's that? Turns out it was in my state. You said to drive north about 300 miles or something from where I was at. Now, I had no fucking idea. Not an iota of idea. When we hopped in the car that day and made our way to the High Sierras, more on that later, that less than 24 hours later, all kinds of shit was happening. Less than 24 hours later, while running from a bear in my mind, I would knock down an innocent tree in the forest using only my chest. I worked out a lot, but in your wildest dreams, when you're in the gym pumping iron, are you thinking, someday I'm going to knock down a tree with my chest? No, nobody thinks that. I mean, and if you meet somebody who thinks that, woohoo, woohoo, oh, go to Starbucks, get a coffee, and go home. But in my case, I could have actually thought that. And imagine if I had said it out loud. Like, imagine I'm doing, I'm on the bench press. And I do, like a 10 set rep with 250. And I stand up and I say, "Rah, rah. Someday I will knock down a tree with my chest." How crazy is it that had I said that, I would be so famous? How many people have said that in a gym after doing a set of reps and then gone into a forest and actually knocked down a tree with their chest? It doesn't happen that often. I mean, name it. Go ahead. Try to. Okay. Tell me all about it. How many people have you heard that have done that? Uh-huh. That's what I thought. Just me. So there's a story that goes with this, though. and it brings back around that quintessential description of the particular area that we were going to go into and chase bears in our minds, or we'll have bears chase us in our minds, and knock down trees with our chest. The High Sierras. So my buddy and I, we've known each other since we were 3. Now, I don't know how much you know when you're 3. I do remember when we were 4, we would go out to the playhouse and pull down our underwear and go, "Woohoo! Look, you have one too." And then we got curious about the kids who couldn't afford to cut their hair. They had really long hair. It's like, I wonder what they got. Let's take some of them out to the playhouse. Let's see what they got. So we did. And we took them out there. We'd pull ours down and pull theirs down. Oh, you don't have one. You don't have one. Now, not long after that, I ran into kind of the rebel, the young rebel. I think she was 4.5 or something. And we got her in the playhouse one day. Got her, we pulled ours down, showing the junk off, and then we got her to pull hers down. And then Greg and I were saying, "You don't have one." and she looked down, she pointed where she didn't have one, and she said, "Hey, with this, I don't need to have one. I can get one anytime I want." Now, when I look back on that moment, that was fairly precocious. Because, sex wasn't a thing until like at least when we were 6 or 7 before we started, getting into that stuff. Or maybe later. I don't know. I like to brag a little bit. Maybe I started a little later, like 19 or 20. But anyway, so Matt and I, getting back to the knocking down the tree story, which it's true, really happened. Calls me up, says, "Hey, come on, man, spring break. I got a couple weeks off out of New York. We got to get the fuck out of here. tired of trading stocks and all this bullshit. Let's go spend some time in the forest. Okay, all right, let's do that. Yeah. So we drive out of Southern California from his parents' house in this like 1960 International Gigantor truck. They got about half a mile a gallon. I think it cost me half a year's wages just to fucking get from Southern California to the high Sierras, where we went and knocked down some trees. And so we get up there and we put on the backpacks, and we got this route planned out. You know, we're going to go from lake to lake to lake to lake to lake to lake for 14 days. So it was 7 lakes though, because we were going in and we're coming out. And that is always a good sign of good planning. You not only go in, but you come out. The big mistake people make when they're planning these trips is they plan going in. And that's why you find bones along the sides of the trails. They didn't plan well. You should have planned to come out. Yes, you should have. So anyway, I'm going to tell the bear story, and that's all. I mean, but there were 14 days of hilarious shit. This is just one night. So we get there the first night to this place called Ranger Lake. Now, Ranger Lake is cool. It's, I don't know, maybe it's a couple 100 yards round. Well, diameter wise, good sized lake. And then about 15 yards offshore from our little campsite where we set up, there's a big rock sticking out of Ranger Lake. Big rock. It's sticking out about 6 feet. It's about 20 feet by 20 feet. It's, it's like a little platform out there. You can go out there and jump off of it. And Ranger Lake is clear. I mean, you can see the fish at the other end of the lake. The lake is so clear. But anyway, that rock is going to be important at the end of this story. So we brought along, each of us brought along a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of tequila, and a lid. Now, lid terminology is probably not something that the average kid knows now. It's probably relegated to history in my generation. But a lid meant an ounce. So it was an ounce of marijuana. And we each brought one, along with the booze. And God damn it, if we didn't smoke all the pot and drink all the liquor on the very first night. Once you get started, man. Now, we were both Boy Scouts, so we knew how to build fires. So we had built a fantastic fire. We're just off the edge of the lake, like 10 yards. And then the rock in Ranger Lake is, another 15 yards away from us. And the moon is reflecting out. I mean, it was fucking beautiful. Fire going, we're warm. We just smoked more pot than, the average high school population smokes in a year. And we drank all the booze. And then we started looking off into the forest. Now, if you look away from the lake in the full moon and the fire, and you look off into the forest, it's dark, really dark, because this is a forest. Trees going up. That's what trees do. They go up. And they create this complete blockage of light. And as we were looking off into the forest, at one point in time, we heard something was out there cracking twigs as it walked along. And against all common sense, against anything anyone could conceive of as being a smart way to approach a situation, Matt and I looked from the dark forest. We looked into each other's eyes and we said, "Huh? What do you think?" And I think I said it. Maybe he said, I don't remember. It's been a long time. One of us said, "Let's go see what it is." So we stood up and we're in our bathing suits from that afternoon. We've been laying out on the rock. We got no shoes, we got no shirts, and we're as stoned as two kids have ever been. And drunk. And we put our hands out in front of us and we start, working our way out into the dark forest. And at some point, we get so far out there that we can't even see our hands. Matt, can you see your hands? Matt, where are you? Over here. D, over here. So we regrouped. We're like, are you still curious? I'm not sure I'm curious about it. Crunch. 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 Now, if there were enough light to illuminate the looks on our faces, just imagine what sheer terror looks like on the face of two people who smoked more pot than has ever been smoked by two individuals in the history of man. Run! Run! So we turned toward the distant firelight, and we were so far out in the forest that you could barely tell there was a fire in the distance. It's just like a little flicker, in between the trees. We started running. And the bear was right behind us. Crunch, 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 crunch. we got closer and closer and closer. Usain Bolt, poverty. You can't run, brother. 10-second 100. I did a 5-second 100 that night. And that's when it happened. Hey, you got to remember, we are so far out from, we were hundreds of yards away from our campsite. So we could barely tell there was even a fire. So we're just fucking running. And then it happened. I hit a tree. And I was just enough faster than Matt but he was behind me. I hit the tree, and the tree, boom, fucking tree fell over. and Matt hit me in the back. He's running into me. Now, as stunning as of an event as it was to just knock a tree over with your chest, didn't stop us. Crunch, 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 the bear's coming behind us. So we took off again. We ran and ran and ran and ran. And we finally got back to the campsite. And we ran right through the campsite, right past the fire. We swam the 15 yards out to the rock and crawled up on the rock and quivered there in fear. Do you think he can swim? You think the bear will swim? I think he's going to swim. Can you swim? I can outswim a bear. I'm going to swim to the other side of the lake if he comes out here. Where's the bear? Do you see the bear? I can't see him. Look, the fire. What? Turns out there was no fucking bear. Well, at least we came to that conclusion the next day. We just made it all up in our mind. But the funny thing is, once we got a little courage back, still that night, we crawled off the rock and swam the 15 yards back to shore, and the fire was going out. We had run out of wood, and so I said, "Hey, I know where there's some wood." So we tiptoed back into the forest to where I had knocked down the tree with my chest. And we drug that tree out of the forest. It was rotted. Apparently, it had been dead for years. I mean, I didn't knock over a fresh tree. Come on now. How badass do you think I am? I tried it the next day. Ooh, that hurt. Anyway, so we drug that tree out of the forest. and to this day, I tell people this story. They go, "Bullshit. There's no fucking way." No, I'm not believing that. But I swear to God, I mean, if I believed in God or if I believed in anything, I'd swear on it. This fucking actually happened exactly the way I just described. And we took that tree and we drug it up to the fireside. And fucking rocks, rocks make a fire thing, fire ring. And we put the end of the tree over the fire, started burning the tree. And then we passed out. And we woke up the next day and the tree had gone out. For some reason, it didn't keep burning. I can't imagine the number of, camping violations we committed that night if a ranger would have come out there. Found the empty bottles of booze. We got a fucking tree. Stick it into a fire. And that was only the first night of 14. Now, granted, it's hard to top that story. But there was one night that was even more spectacular. I'll get to that.